Trump's legal team says they will appeal this verdict. ABC News senior national correspondent Terry Moran joins me now for more on that. Terry, what are you watching for in terms of what arguments Trump's attorneys make when they do file for this appeal?
Well, Diane, it's hard to overturn a criminal conviction, right? It is very hard because the appeals court begins with the assumption that the jury got it right. Now, there are appeals grounds on the law, but even if you feel you have an appeal on the law, it has to be of such significance that the case would have gone completely the other way. The jury's verdict is a strong strike against Trump in this appeals process. But I expect that the fertile ground for appeal for this defense team is not going to be in the New York State courts. This is a New York State court that has already approved much of the way the prosecution handled it. However, the way Trump was tried does raise federal issues. For example, the Sixth Amendment to the Constitution guarantees that every person in a criminal prosecution has the right to be informed, completely informed of the charges against him. And you remember that Trump has been convicted now of 34 counts of falsifying business records that are misdemeanors that are boosted into felonies because they were committed in pursuit with the intent to commit another crime. Now, that crime Trump was never informed of. And the jury didn't even find out about it until the last day of the trial when the prosecutors in their closing argument said that. So now that's been approved of by New York courts over the years. The Supreme Court's never taken a square look at that. So that is one ground for appeal. And there's also the question of, being fully informed of, under the Sixth Amendment, having the right to confront one's accuser. There are problems with some of the witnesses in that regard. But I think it's more likely that Trump is going to find traction in the federal courts rather than the state courts. And it's not just because he appointed 3 justices to the Supreme Court and lots of federal court judges. It's because there are federal issues raised here. For example, does the Manhattan District Attorney have the power to enforce federal election law? That was the other crime. That Trump violated federal election law by this scheme. Generally, the courts don't want the kind of confusion that would result by all kinds of local prosecutors and local courts interpreting federal election law, or federal pollution law, or anything like that. That belongs to the federal system. So he's got some good grounds in federal courts, I think, for an appeal. Now, whether he wins, that's still a long shot.
Terry, mistakes by the trial judge are among the most common grounds for an appeal. Do you see any questionable calls by Judge Merchan that could become a focus here?
Well, the defense certainly sees questionable calls, and they raised objections throughout the trial to preserve the right to appeal the judge's rulings. One of them, the fact that Michael Cohen's guilty plea was allowed to come into evidence. And there's a maxim of the law that one person's guilty plea can't be used as evidence against another person, even if that person was in the same scheme. So that's one possibility, and there are others. They certainly objected a lot during trial. Appeals courts will hear about a lot of those objections.
And prejudicial publicity during the trial is another common ground for appeal in high-profile cases. How does an appeals court consider that in this unprecedented case where the defendant is a former president and a current presidential candidate?
Right. I think they will defer to the notion that the jury got it right, absent proof that the publicity distorted the process. That said, the other day, everybody remembers Robert De Niro coming to the microphones in front of the courthouse and ranting about how Trump must be convicted. He's got the First Amendment right to do that, but he was sent by the President of the United States. That has never happened before. Presidents stay out of criminal cases. But in this case, Joe Biden's campaign said, Robert De Niro, go stand in front of the courthouse where this man is being tried and tell people he should be convicted. I doubt that's enough to overturn a conviction, but an appeals court might want to back future presidents down from getting involved in criminal cases like this, because Trump's argument is going to be, how can I get a fair trial when the President of the United States is sending people out in front of the courthouse to proclaim my guilt? And that's probably the kind of thing they want to prevent in the future, so maybe there's an opportunity there.
Right, interesting. Terry Moran, thank you.